Savvy Business Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with our host, Christina Nichman.
Our guest today is Bridget Grimes, founder and president of Wealth Choice, a firm focused on helping women turn their professional success into financial success. Today, she shares her latest book, Corner Office Choices, the Executive Woman's Guide to Financial Freedom. Find out more about Bridget and her work at wealthchoice.com. Hi, Bridget. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. How are you today?
Good, Christina. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you betcha. You are an advisor to top-earning female executive business owners, attorneys, the author of a new book, Corner Office Choices, the Executive Woman's Guide to Financial Freedom, which is so important. So many women I talk to are not financially free. They're not having the life they want. And if they're a business owner, the business they want. They feel frustrated and they hear their men counterparts doing so much better. And it's frustrating for me as a woman as well. I want to see women in the workforce and in business doing a lot better and feeling confident that they can. So I'm grateful to have you here sharing your expertise today. Share with the audience a little bit about your backstory, though. What even brought you to becoming an executive and writing your book?
So, great question, because there's a big story behind it. I actually when I got out of college over 30 years ago, I went right to Wall Street and traded stocks for some hedge funds and wound up, after having kids and taking myself out of the industry, wound up more in corporate America. But when I got divorced a number of years ago, and I was, a busy professional woman, 2 little kids, and I noticed, interestingly enough, that my 2 closest friends were in the same place. So 3 of us were going through our divorces at the same time. We all had little kids. We were all really engrossed in our career. And honestly, we had no time to think about our own financial future. And I realized that it was a very common issue with executive women. And it was a shame because, we're so busy taking care of everyone else, whether it's our clients or our business or our children or, everybody but us. And I thought, man, what's going to happen to these women if we don't take the time to worry about our own financial future? And that was truly the impetus for me getting back into Wall Street. And I launched a practice that was purely focused on helping busy women execs.
Wow. That is so tremendous. I mean, I've talked to business owners. We talked a little bit before the interview as well. I've had a friend of mine who was a doctor. She went to med school with 2 kids in tow, a single woman, like you're talking about, got her doctorate and is kicking butt. But interestingly enough, when she gets paid from a big, bunch of clients, it's usually from insurance companies. You got to wait a good long time, unfortunately, the way insurance works. But she'll come into a slew of money, $200,000, and she's like, where am I going to go around the world to travel with my kids and see the world? Now, she loves to travel, and I get that. But part of me thinks, where's your financial security? None of it's being invested. And women tend not to think about investment. And I get scared thinking, what's going to be, 20 years down the line, 30 down, when you're retired or should be retired, and now your kids are out of the house, do you have a nest egg to rest on and to be okay?
And this is a huge issue, huge. I cannot tell you how many women I sit down with, and they are big earners. They are really doing well in their careers. But because they work so hard, Christina, they want to reward themselves. And so they may make great money, but then they want to spend that money because they want to reward themselves for the fact that they're working 24/7. And they wind up in this crazy cycle where they cannot afford to stop work and have even a fraction of the lifestyle they have now because they're not saving. So, yeah, it is a very common issue.
And, when you're making $200,000, it sounds like you're living large, but you're not because you're having to output so much. How do you even begin? Like my friend who's a doctor and working crazy hours and has children, where do you even begin to make the time for yourself to be, where you can even begin to invest and save? How do you even begin that process?
Well, I'll tell you. So this is where I think outsourcing for help is really important because my clients all work. They either run a company or they're really engrossed in their careers. And so they're busy and they're very, very good at what they do in their profession. But when it comes to other things like taxes and financial planning, and things that are very specialized but not your expertise, I can't say enough about trying to get help from someone who knows what they're doing. And so I'm a big proponent of finding a good resource and then working with those people to help you get where you want to be. And honestly, I don't think it's as daunting as a lot of women think. So when I wrote that book recently, my goal was to demystify a lot of this. Mm-hmm. You know, there are 4 key issues that will jack women up and prevent them from living the life they want, right? So, I mean, for most of us, we're working because we want a good quality of life. You're not just working because you have nothing else to do. So, you know, if this career or this business is your source of income and your source of a good quality of life, then leverage that, right? So make that work for you for that life that you want. But what I consistently find as issues is that they are so busy. They are so busy, and they do not make the time to think about what do they want out of this life, what's really important to them, and really crystallizing what those goals are. And then they definitely don't know where their money's going. So, you know, figure out, and we spend a lot of time on this, where is the money going? Is it going where you need it to go, where you want it to go? You know, let's make some choices around this. So really do a ton of work on budgeting. And then managing your career. Like I said, that is the driver for all of these women, of all of this, right? So it's not just income. It's like, what's the quality of life you want? Yeah. Are you happy working 24/7 as, you know, in your profession, getting paid lots of money and then being miserable? You know, some of these professions have really not great statistics when it comes to quality of life, you know, whether it's substance abuse, alcohol abuse, depression. I mean, these are real things that will actually absolutely affect your life. So I try to get folks to think about, okay, so what is this life that you want? And how do you use that career of yours to get that quality of life, not just the income? So I mentioned these things. So there's certain things that we go through with folks, and everyone is capable of doing these things. They're not as big a time suck as you might think, but I encourage people to get help and to carve out the time they need, because I would bet that they put themselves last. They spend more time on their clients. They probably spend more time on choosing a vacation than they do on this stuff.
Wow. This is amazing to me, because when I talk to men, it's a different conversation sometimes. They have no problem building what they call like a strategic alliance. And that could be even the vendors they choose to make their lives easier, to make their business run more efficiently. But interestingly, I had a really interesting conversation with a woman friend who owns a business a couple of years ago. And she said she had this great shame for hiring a babysitter and a nanny to come look at her house, because she said, I feel as a mom that's something I should be doing, that I really should not be having someone come in and clean my house and do this. I said, think about it. It was the best investment I ever made, having someone clean my house, come help take care of my dog, walk him once in a while, and do my laundry and do all this stuff. It has saved so much of my time. Now, I'm not a mother, but I said to her, think of the time now that you can spend with your children as a mom, not having to come in and go like, kids, go watch the TV. I got to clean the dishes. I got to do laundry. Now someone's taking care of that for you so that you can be the mom you want to be when you are home. So I think, I don't know if you've experienced this, is there a bit of shame around some of the hiring or kind of outsourcing that, you know, for women in particular?
Well, I think that it's unrealistic for any of us to expect that you can do everything perfectly. Yeah. You know, I think it's unrealistic. And, you know, I have no problem if women have chosen to stay home and raise their kids. You know, I respect that. I love to work. And most of the women in my world are really focused on careers. I think that there's a good amount of guilt around the career piece where you can't be in 2 places at one time. I mean, I can tell you of many, many events I missed for my kids when they were growing up. But at the end of the day, I provided them with a good quality of life. And, you know, there's a balance, right? So you just have to choose that balance. And I think it's hard for women to give themselves a break.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you come home, you give yourself no break, but then how much of your attention and of yourself are you giving to your kid, because you've not taken a break for yourself?
Right, right. So yeah, that comes back to that we are like totally last in the whole line there. And I think women really need to work on this more. There was some study that came out a couple years ago that showed that if women were unhappy with their careers, that actually it affected their children. Their stress and their demeanor, their unhappiness actually was shown to affect the children. And so it's really important that you feel that you're comfortable with where you are, that you're happy with where you are. And if you're not, you need to fix it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a good woman executive I was talking to recently. She was very angry to hear one of her counterparts was making a lot more money than she was. And we got into a whole conversation. I said, well, when you signed up for this particular offer or this position you're in, did you negotiate? And she said, well, they told me the market value for this was that. And I said, okay. I said, so you were okay with it. You didn't think maybe I could get more or, kind of research. I said, I what I'm seeing here from this other guy is I don't really blame him so much because he asked actually for more than the market value and they gave it to him. But he walked in there saying, I want it, give it to me or I walk. And apparently they wanted him and they gave it to him. And I said to her, maybe I'm just as guilty of this. I've walked into a number of negotiating rooms where I just take pretty much the first offer or second offer on the table. But I think as women, we need to get better with saying, nope, that doesn't work for me. Here's what I want. And sometimes not even cash. Maybe it's more time, maybe flexibility to go home and be with my kids, whatever it might be for you, but to be okay and have the confidence to say that I'm worth this and they're going to take me up on it, not because I'm going to lose this deal, but I'm going to be confident enough to know I'm not because I have the skills, what they need, and they're going to see that and, and really not, how do you say, back down from what I really want.
Yeah, so you just brought up a whole ton of critical issues. One is the confidence factor, right? So women tend to need everything to be absolutely perfect. We are experts in everything before we feel that we're in a place where we're even able to even ask for some of those things, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a huge confidence gap, which men don't have. And interesting study, a different study a couple of years ago in nursing. So nursing is a traditionally female industry, right? So what's interesting is, though, many men have entered in nursing, and you would think that there shouldn't be such a big pay disparity, but this goes back to women not asking for what they're worth and not negotiating. And they have found that male nurses make more than women nurses.
Wow.
Yes, in a traditionally female role. So what this came down to is the fact that these men negotiated better.
Yeah.
So I absolutely agree. I think that negotiating for what you're worth is just something that women tend not to do. Over the course of a 30-year career for a working woman, we on average leave $1 million on the table. And that's a combination of not getting paid what you're worth, then not having the ability to save what you would if you were paid more. It's lost returns on that money that you haven't been able to invest. It's time taken off from work because we're raising our children or taking care of elderly parents. So we leave all this money on the table. We don't negotiate for ourselves. And by not getting paid what we should, when we should get paid, commensurate to our abilities, we leave a tremendous amount of money on the table. It's not good because we live a long time. Yeah.
And on average from the studies, we actually live longer than men.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Which is, a great thing, right? I mean, it's great. Longevity is great, but it's a double-edged sword. And the other tricky part about longevity for women is that we wind up living single a long time. That has all sorts of financial implications because just because there's now one of you instead of two, believe it or not, your costs don't drop by 50%. And now that single person now even has to file single, right? Instead of married filing jointly. There's a huge tax hit. So there's hits all over the place as a result of our gender.
Wow. That is something I don't think about. But here's something that came up for me as a consultant and I'd like to touch on. And that is women kind of telling other women, no, don't rise up. That's good. Stay down. And I've talked to one woman, she's an executive. And when I told her, what I was negotiating for at this new deal a couple of years ago, she's like, well, who are you to ask for that? That's more than I've ever asked for. And I'm like, because this is what I've, put into value, what my skills are worth. But I found it interesting that I had to explain to her, or I felt I did to my friend, that she thought I was too big for my britches to go in there and ask for that. And I find that something I'm noticing with women, that they're thinking, well, no, come on down. Don't go too high up. We don't want you to be arrogant or anything. And where is that coming from?
I don't know. Is it competition? I was at a conference last week, and in this breakout we were in, we were asked to think of the one woman or a woman in our career who had really advocated for us. And I have to tell you, I could not answer that question.
Wow.
So what I have found, which is terrible, right? So I'm in finance, and unfortunately, it's a competitive industry. And there, honestly, I think only in the recent past few years has it become really much more focused on abundance, right? Where you really do go out of your way to try to share with others in your own industry. And it just hasn't been that place. And I can tell you so many times when women would take credit for my work.
Wow.
It's really unfortunate. And I think the only solution to changing that is that you choose to not be that person.
Yeah.
You choose to help other women around you. But to get back to what you're saying about the negotiating piece, I know an executive placement firm here and I've had this conversation with the woman who runs that company, who places people in STEM, specifically STEM careers, all management level folks. And she said more times than she can remember, a woman will come to her and say, okay, this is what I want to get paid for this role. And that role may not typically pay that amount. Or she'll say, hey, based on your skill set, that's not what you should be advocating for. It doesn't make sense. So she will try to convince them to actually ask for what they should. Now, she's not telling them, hey, you don't deserve this. But what she has found is that women will go into negotiating without having the background to back up the numbers they're asking for. So to get what you're paid really comes down to being able to say, okay, look, here is what this role pays at this firm or in my industry. I know the range for this role that I have or the role that I want. So you've got those numbers. And then you need to be able to say, here's the value I have shown this company. Here's the benefit I have brought this company in numbers, right? So then you can easily say, given this is what I would like to get paid. So you have to be able to back up everything. It's not an emotional ask. It's a really very basic ask that comes down to the numbers. And I think if we did this better, it's much easier to be able to ask for what you're worth and to get paid for what you're worth. Now, not every employer is going to do it, and that's another gender issue.
Yeah.
And that's something I experienced myself, where you've done all that, the numbers speak loud and clear, and at the end of the day, the employer still gets to choose whether they're going to pay you or not. But then you get to make a choice. Do I stay here or do I go?
Yeah. I love that you mentioned the bottom line. There was an executive we had on not too long ago that we interviewed, and he said, people have come to me, this guy that worked for me, he's worked for me for about 5 years, and he said, okay, I want to get paid XYZ. He's like, great, okay, you want to get paid XYZ. What are you going to add to the table in time or effort or skills that, will make that worth my while to give you that extra money? He's like, oh, nothing. He's like, well, then you're not getting the money, my friend. But, that's something I think is a good lesson to anyone listening, a man, woman, child, whatever, that if you want something, you have to be able to show bottom line numbers. What are you providing them in value that would make up for what you're asking for? Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, this is all about business, right? And I think any of us would want to absolutely pay someone what they're worth when they're providing a value to your company, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, what comes up for me over and over again as we have this conversation, the real key, the crux of it is for women is confidence. And how do women begin to build that real deep innate confidence in whatever field they're in, that they will rock wherever they are as an executive, a business owner? How do we do that? Well, I think in a couple ways. I think it's important to have a mentor. And that's someone who can help you navigate your industry. It's someone who can give you feedback. I think it's important to try to find an advocate for you at your firm. So that's someone who's in that firm who can really
speak up for you, who can put you out on stage and get you out where you need to be, absolutely advocate for you to get the next role you want or to help you get the pay that you deserve. Mm-hmm. I think that those are critical areas. I think you have to have the skill set for the role you want. And I think that goes without saying. So, and if you have identified that there are certain areas that you are not awesome in, that are absolutely hurting you, I'm the biggest proponent of business coaches. I want every one of my clients to have a business coach. And on whatever area it is that they need, that they've identified that will help them get to where they want to be in business or their profession, let's identify the challenges and let's find a solution. Yeah. But get the resources you need for sure. So I think approaching it that way will give women the confidence that they need to know, hey, I'm really good at what I do. Mm-hmm. And I think until we feel that we've got this confidence, that we don't have to have every I dotted and every T crossed in order to take the next role. This is where this risk aversion is an issue, I believe, where women really feel that they need to have everything perfect before they go to the next step. Well, guys don't do that, and when a role will come up or an opportunity will come up that could be a game changer for you, unfortunately, more women than not will hang back and say, what, I'm just not ready yet. Mm. But the guys will be like, oh yeah, I will figure it out. Just give me the chance, right? And unfortunately, this is it's physiological. I mean, we're different, and this is just one of the challenges we need to be cognizant of, and we need to try to work around. And this is where I think it would be awesome if you did have opportunities that show up. Mm-hmm. You have a mentor or an advocate who can give you that faith and say, you know what, you've got this. So let's give this a try.
Wow. I love that you mentioned that. Out of necessity, many years ago, I took a job in my early 20s where it needed computers. I had never operated a computer, but it was going to pay what I needed. And I said, you know what? I'll figure it out because I need the cash. And so I took the job, and I was telling myself, like, I have a home computer. No, I didn't, oh, yes, I work with computers all the time. But, what I did basically is I made it happen. Once I got the job, I took the computer book home. I memorized it, played with the computer after work. I was going to learn this computer thing. And it got to the point where I became the expert in the software we were using, that any new person that started came to me on how to operate the computer. Because the computer, and, I was starting in the early 80s. Was new to the company, mid-80s. So they just started using computers. So no one really knew them very well. So it gave me a heads up to really learn it. But that's what you're talking about there. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you might not have all the skills, but go and get them. Jump with 2 feet in the pool and give it your all. And sometimes it can be a learn as you go experience. It worked out well for me. That same boss said to me a year later, I was sitting at lunch with him. I said, I had no computer experience. He's like, I knew, but he saw what I made it happen. And that's really sometimes what you got to do, jump in there with 2 feet. You might not have everything you need, but just go out there and make it happen and learn as you go.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was a really good experience. Well, where can people get your book and find out more about you? Do you have any upcoming events happening?
So the book is Corner Office Choices, The Executive Woman's Guide to Financial Freedom. You can get it on Amazon. And you can learn more about me through our website, which is wealthchoice.com. I'm open to, if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to talk to anyone. My goal with that firm is to really help women live the life they want. I mean, we're out there, we work really hard, we take care of everyone, and I would just love to see more women get to where they want to be and live the life that they want, because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Yes. So, anytime anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to help, give my feedback.
That's awesome. And because if we have women who are thriving, everyone thrives. The family thrives, the whole, the globe flies. Yeah, we're all doing well because, as you mentioned earlier, kids are not happy when moms come home not happy. And if they're struggling and emotionally not doing well in their work, it's going to be brought home. So everyone suffers.
Absolutely. So I don't know if you saw in the state of California last week, it was mandated that women are on boards now. And this is a big shift. And I think what I find most exciting about this, it's a very controversial move, But we all know that women on boards, there are proof that women on boards increases profitability of companies because it adds diversity of perspective. So we know there's a tremendous value to women in business and just approaching things differently. Not, the diversity of perspective is just fabulous. And rich and really makes a difference. So, my goal is to just empower these women to make a difference and live the life they want and not be afraid, have the tools they need to get to wherever they need to be in their careers.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad that you're out there helping women and get the lives they want. Everyone, please go out and get the corner office choices, because you do have choices in this life, whether you're a business owner, an executive, or working as an employee. You do have choices to grow as a woman. And I'm so grateful, Bridget, you were able to come out here and share your great wisdom today on Savvy Business Radio.
Thanks, Christina. I really appreciate the chance to talk.
Savvy Business Radio broadcasts worldwide via a large podcast network, celebrating business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers, and successful individuals. Find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest. Call 732-474-7375 or email Christina@savvybusinessradio.com.